Curious with Josh Peck is brought to you by the new Showtime original series Kidding, starring Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey. Carrey plays Jeff Pickles, a children's television icon and a force for good in an often cruel world. As his family life starts to unravel, Jeff's sanity is put to the ultimate test. Will he be able to keep it together? Don't miss the series premiere of Kidding, Sunday, September 9th at 10 p.m., following the season premiere of Shameless only on Showtime. The series premiere is available for free on YouTube now. Welcome to Curious with Josh Peck. Start the show. Hi, babies. Hi, my babies. Hi. It's Uncle Josh here. That was fucking creepy. What's up? Welcome back to the Curious Podcast. Today, the day after a long weekend, a holiday weekend, Labor Day. God, people live for these long weekends. I mean, I've never been a working stiff, and that's been to my detriment. I'm not proud of that because people in the normal workforce, I have just an insane amount of respect for because I couldn't, maybe I could do it for the right job. You know, something, I probably couldn't do it. But you know, I love how, you know, Memorial Day weekend, fucking the Labor Day, Thanksgiving, a 4-day weekend, people fucks with that. They love it. You know, I don't know if the regular world is like this, but within the entertainment industry, because I'm one of those people, I'm different than you. Not really. I don't make sense in the entertainment industry anyway. But, you know, it's funny because all like the agencies and whatnot, they will actually shut down a day before the weekend. So they're getting a 4-day weekend too. They don't give a shit. Don't call CAA on a Friday because ain't nobody there, you know? I mean, listen, I'm not repped at CAA because I'm not famous enough, but I love my agency that I'm with because they're the bomb.com and they also listen to this podcast. So love you guys. Also, you know, love an audition if you got one. And if not, no problem. I'm just playing. Yo, I'm going to get all neurotic and worried about that. Yo, my agency, I love you guys. Thank you for the support always. You're the best. You're the best. Never going to CAA. Anyway, I like a good 3-day weekend. I think it's a really relaxing time. I love to see people's attitude on Sunday when they're like, oh my God, I've got the whole world ahead of me. Please, this is unlike any other Sunday. I could do whatever I want tonight. I don't have a care in the world. I don't have anywhere to be tomorrow. But slowly but surely, that week just starts creeping in, and all of a sudden it's midday Monday, and you're like, oh shit. Nah, gotta go back to life tomorrow. It was just Friday. And I was driving home, and the sun was setting perfectly on my car, and everything was just right in the world. I was listening to a podcast better than this one, probably Views by David Dobrik or the Joe Rogan Experience. And I felt like there were so many possibilities. It was limitless. And here, just in the blink of an eye, here we are, Monday. God, is it 4 already? It's 4 fucking o'clock. What did I even do this weekend? This sucks. I went too hard Saturday, and it fucked up the rest of the weekend. I don't feel good, because I thought I could drink like I did when I was in college, but I can't. My liver doesn't allow that. I'm 31. I can't. I'm playing the part of a character. Actually, I don't really drink, but yeah, it's, you know, it's going to be an interesting thing. You know, full disclosure, I'm pre-recording this a couple days before the holiday, because I work with an incredible, beautiful, awesome podcast company, and I want them, the beautiful employees and my partners there, to have a lovely weekend off, and I don't want them to have to sit and editing my silly banter on a Monday. No, I want them to be out enjoying and lamenting that they have to go back to work the next day. So I haven't even experienced Labor Day yet. I'll be honest. It's Thursday, guys, and I'm in complete projection, but I imagine my 3-day weekend will be the same as yours. Nice, enjoyable, and then regretful towards midday, the last day. And that's all I got. What else? Still going to be a father. That'll be cool. Probably, maybe. Hopefully I'll be good at it. I imagine I'll be serviceable at it. I know a lot of people that are parents that they don't seem qualified from here. I'm going to be honest, but they're getting by, and their kids are rather lovely, you know? kids aren't standouts, you know? I don't see a Steve Jobs in the mix, but I also don't see a fucking, Unabomber either. I just see some nice young people that'll probably earn between $85,000 and $160,000 a year at their peak, and they'll repopulate the earth and just do nice things, live in the suburbs and be stoked for football on Sundays, and whatever, the occasional Groupon. I don't know. It's not my life, but yeah, I think the reality is that my wife is so awesome, and I'm really lucky that I think she will insulate my child from any of my weird dysfunction neuroses, and then I'll get to just pepper in some silly fun dad, cute artist dad who can't teach them how to throw a football, but can teach them how to throw a joke around, and some might say that is more valuable. Of course, I don't know who those people are that would say that, but I imagine there are some out there. Anyway, today's episode, Retta. Retta. Retta is a very good friend of mine who I've known for over a decade. I'm slightly obsessed with her. She's sort of a perfect human. You might know her from Parks and Rec, or Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, or many other things. Also, she just wrote a book, So Close to Being the Shit Ya Don't Even Know. And you should go buy that book on Amazon, because I read it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I just so appreciate that she sat down with me for over an hour and we got to chop it up. I love her. Here's Retta. Thanks, Retta. I wanted to ask you, when you look, because you are so good at social media.
No, it's all right.
When you look at someone's Twitter and you see the amount of times they've tweeted in their career, do you make a snap judgment? Because sometimes I do.
I don't. You know what? I don't really pay attention to that anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. The only time I really look at someone's profile is if I don't know who they are and they've commented, and then you're like, who is it? Like they've said something rude, if they're trolling or whatever, and you look and you're like, okay, I'm gonna let you and your 14 followers go enjoy your time together.
Right.
But I don't have time for Twitter as much as I used to, because Twitter, I used to be on it. Like, I'm more into Instagram now. I'm visually stimulated. I'm a visual person. So Instagram is more fun to me, to see pictures, to see stories, and that sort of thing. So I get into that. But yes, if I happen upon someone new that I'm like, oh, this person has Instagram, and I look and I'm like, 20,000 pictures.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a lot of time.
That's a lot of pictures, yeah.
And I'm not saying any shade here, because everyone knows I love her, and I've said this to her face. Christina Milian, my baby mama from Grandfather, who I love deeply, sometimes would post, when we were working together, 4 to 5 photos a day.
Oh,
and I would say, Christina, that's bad form. You can't do that. And she'd be like, Josh.
Like selfies?
Just, at events, because she has a really cool, exciting life. And so she had more than enough. Whereas me, like, if I got 2, flamed photos a week, I'm stoked. And I would say that to her, and she'd be like, I'm Christina Milian. I'm doing just fine. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, though.
I remember when we were shooting the pilot for Grandfathered, and we were in line getting food, and a guy that worked for the
By
caterer.
the way, is this part of the show?
Yeah,
because you're talking into the mic. Okay.
I can cut it out.
You're like, I remember.
I remember getting food with Christina, and this lovely catering guy took one look at Christina and pulled out his phone and said, "You're my background." Like, you're my wallpaper. And I was like, Christina, you're powerful. Can you believe this?
Yeah, that is a pretty cool thing. I mean, I'm still surprised by being in GIFs.
Yes.
You know?
You are highly gifable, memeable.
When people pop, Parks, because, I mean, if you search Parks GIFs, you could be on the computer all day.
Right.
So that's always still good. I just now saw that they have the moving GIFs that you can pop onto your story. And so I had posted a clip for Chris Pratt's birthday. I posted a clip of a scene we're in, and then I put Chris Pratt or rather Andy and Donna gifs on the story, so our heads were popping up and down as we're in the scene.
Love it. Well done.
Which I think is pretty cool.
But it's funny that you say that about Instagram, because I too will notice if I'm on someone's Twitter and I see that they've written 70,000 tweets.
Twitter's been around for a little bit, though. I'm afraid to look to see how many tweets I have now.
150,000. I'm like, son, you are narrating the world.
Well, also, I mean, people get like that. I know a lot of people who like to talk back to trolls. So you end up getting a lot of tweets that way too. Right. So if you're spending your day fighting with people, you're going to have 50 tweets in a day. You know what I mean?
Do you ever talk back?
Not really. I usually will, like I said, I'll check the page first. And if it's like, if they've got like 30 followers, then I'll be like, oh, you and your friends can go play.
Your life's hard enough.
Otherwise, I just retweet. I retweet. Because obviously something they've said I think is crazy, and I know that my followers will be like, "Oh, we got this.
We'll take care of this."
Yes. Or I will say something like, "Thank you for your time. I feel like you're very introspective, and I'm going to let you go ahead and do that," and then block.
Like it.
Yeah.
Strong.
I don't generally. If I feel like they're making a point, but they're not, but they're coming from a place that is selfish or not rooted in just general goodness, I may comment back and be like, "Oh, so this is how you would feel if this was your grandmother," something like that, along the lines to continue that conversation. And then if they start getting crazy, I don't go beyond that.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember when I had grandfathered coming out, and I would get a lot of heat, especially this was like at the height of Vine and whatnot. So there were just like a lot of fuck boys coming at me the wrong way.
Because you were big on Vine, yeah?
Yeah, I was big on it, and I was also like kind of older, and also coming from the Drake and Josh of it all. So some people looked at it as a step down, for whatever reason.
Instead of you having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just remember that every hate tweet I get, like you peaked, like you're just you're thirsty for followers, and I'm like, nothing will quench your thirst more like grandfathered on Tuesday nights at 8:30. Like, and I was like, this is the only way to turn the heat, or like turn all of this this hate into something worthwhile,
right.
But the thing is, when you address the trolls, and it's like Stephen Colbert when he went after Trump, and then Trump acknowledged it, and he's like, "Well, I've won because you acknowledge it." Like, I feel as though it can almost never go right. Right.
Yeah, I've had one or two instances where I've had someone come around and say, I see your point of view. I don't necessarily agree, but I do see where you're coming from, and so I understand your point of view, and that feels good. And I've had that experience, where I was like, you know what, I get it. I don't live in Ohio to have this happen, so I get this level, but you see where I'm coming from, that kind of thing. So I have had instances where I felt like I was heard, or the other person felt like they were heard.
Yes.
Particularly, I think part of it is because most of the time, if someone's DMing or, hate tweeting at, or leaving ridiculous comment at a celebrity, they don't think they're going to see it. They just want to say their words and feel superior in that moment. And when someone comments on it, every once in a while, people will take a moment to be like, oh my God, I love you so much. I didn't think you would read that. I'm like, well, why did you write something so hateful or so disparaging? And because they just want to say words sometimes.
Yes.
So I feel like every once in a while you'll have a moment of clarity, or they'll have a moment of clarity. It is rare. It's usually
more and more
as you
rare.
said, fuck boys or haters. In which case, go eat a dick. But
I love it. What are your thoughts on people who are famous or have certain level of celebrity chastising others publicly? Because I think that's a whole other level.
Yeah, that's hard.
Right?
It's hard.
I don't think you don't seem like the type.
don't know if I don't chastise, because I talk about Trump all the time, and I talk about some of the senators that I think are doing some really heartless and selfish things.
Right.
And I don't know that it sounds like chastising. I would like to think that it doesn't, but I would like it. I do want it to be known that people don't appreciate choices that they're making for swaths of the nation, you know?
Yes.
And so I will, and that's the thing, I never used to talk about politics, especially because I didn't want to have to cuss anybody out.
Right.
So I never, but we're in a day and age, it's like you gotta make your opinion known and make your views known or make your position known, and you know, the position of your people, your group, whatever it is, because there's no way there's going to be a change. So I don't think I chastise the celebrity thing. I try not to comment on anyone's physical appearance or clothing. I will comment on characters on TV, and I'll be like,
Sure.
Why? I remember I used to talk about
Scandal.
Bellamy Young's hair on Scandal, because I knew it was a wig, and I was like, I would talk about the the first lady
Right.
was dressed this way or that way or whatever. So I will talk about characters, but I won't.
It's not them.
Yeah, you know, whatever it is, you know, I'm chastising this particular character,
No
but
shots fired at a real person.
I don't. Yeah, I try, and I know, you know, especially when you're young and you look in magazines, you see people on TV, you want to comment. You want to comment. And that's fine. You have a conversation with your girlfriends, you talk shit, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, love
whatever.
it.
Because you're on the same team, you're in a safe place.
Exactly.
You're not saying it to that person for them to hear it, to be like, who the fuck do you think you are? But, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
Be catty,
Yeah.
and then keep it moving.
There's a time and place.
But when it comes to coming to someone, because chances are you're not going to say it in that person's face.
No,
so when you
no
post
one
it on,
does.
when you post it on social media, if you're not going to say it to someone's face, don't say it.
Well, it's a level. I remember listening to Lance Armstrong on Howard Stern, and he was talking about after all of the steroids came out and his fall from grace, and how publicly he was sort of, his whole legacy was assaulted, and social media was relentless. He's like, even with all that, not a single person has ever come up to me and even said, "You really let me down, Lance."
Right.
No one has the balls to say shit. And like, that's the world in which we live in. And I you know, for me, and I think you're right, and especially with the political things, because we're all citizens of this country, so we're allowed to have a voice, and especially it's done in a public forum. But more specifically, like, I remember when this big YouTuber, and I'm sure you might have heard of it, this kid Logan Paul.
I know. I did a movie with him.
Yeah, so Logan fucked up and did this awful thing, and unfortunately he did something completely out of character that many, you know, people in their late teens and early 20s are guilty of. Just doing something, a complete lapse in judgment. But, you know, he is who he is, and he's famous and all this money and fans, and so he did it on a public stage. And I remember watching all these actors and people running to eviscerate him publicly.
Right.
And I was like, fuck that shit. I was like, we're all in glass houses, and it could happen to any of us. I mean, granted, what he did was unacceptable, but nevertheless, like, everyone in life has had a bad moment that goes against who they are. And I'm like, let this be a moment to teach. Because he's a kid, and that's what kids do. And if we ruin kids' lives for making a mistake once, like, I know I was forgiven, and I'm just glad there wasn't social media when I was running around Hollywood being a real cliche. You know, snorting that booger sugar, being a real cliche. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? The devil's dandruff. Colombian calcium. You know? Oh, my God. Hey now, we've got another ad. What's up, y'all? It's Josh Peck, and I'm just here to read you an ad, so get excited. Did you know that every single episode of Curious is now on Spotify? The same app that has millions of songs now also has thousands of podcasts. And yo, I use Spotify in my life, in my home, okay? So if you come into my apartment and you're like, whoa, what's that sick banging streaming service that's pumping out all these hits? It's Spotify. Anyway, on Spotify, you can listen to all your favorite shows and discover new ones. Just not too many. We get really jealous over here. Anyway, to subscribe to Curious, search for Curious, tap follow, and get every new episode delivered to you. Podcasts on Spotify. They're streaming right now, and now, and now. Let's get back to the show. Okay, so I've been dying to ask you this since I knew I was starting a pod and you would bless me with an hour to chat. Do you get over it with your catchphrase and people saying it to you? I mean, treat yourself like enough.
Yes and no. Yes.
Give me the real deal.
When people come at me as if they're the first person to say it,
I get that too.
I just look at them and go, come on.
Come on.
Just type it into to Twitter and see when's the last time it was tweeted.
Yes.
Probably a minute ago. But like a lot of times when if I go to a restaurant, someone will write it on the check, and and I don't mind it, especially if they were if I had good service and they weren't weird.
Right.
You know what I mean? If they weren't weird, and so that was just their way of acknowledging, I know who you are, I respect what you've done. Obviously they watch the show, they like the show, and that's why they were saying it.
Right.
So I don't in those instances I don't mind it. I get it a lot if I post going to dinner, buying something, doesn't even matter what it is, making any kind of purchase, I get like 1,000 comments, you know? In which case, I kind of don't even look at it anymore because I'm not going to not acknowledge 100 treat yourselves, right. You know? I don't like it if I'm out somewhere and someone just jumps in my face and yells it. That is annoying.
Sure. Or just yells it from afar.
Yeah,
right?
I do. And more annoying than treat yourself, really, is when people call me Donna.
Yes.
Because I'm like, I know you have a smartphone. I know you can go look up my real name.
Right.
And I've seen people do it. And I know it, so I'm like, I respect that because I can see them being like wanting to say Donna, and then I see them pull out their phone, and then they come up and they're like, "Are you Retta?" And I'm like, "Yes, I saw you."
God bless those
Recognize
people.
me, yeah. But people who just come at me and say Donna, that makes me more crazy than treat yourself.
I don't. I thank my lucky stars every day that Drake and Josh was named after us. Because if I was fucking Screech, I would end it. Like, no hate to Dustin Diamond, much respect, my friend. But like, if someone was coming up to me and was like, you know, Harvey every day, I'd be like, guys, I can't do this with you. Even when people will come up and be like, what's your real name? And I'll be like, it's Josh.
Right.
Like, and I'm like, and it was funny because the creator of the show, Nickelodeon, after Drake and Josh, because he had created Kenan and Kel and the Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, and so as far as titles go, he was like, we'll just use their names. And then Nickelodeon got hip to the fact that like they couldn't really own the character if they were our names.
Right.
They were like, no more of that. So we were the last, and I'm like, I thank him every day.
Right.
But I so identify with you because I get it too, because we had catchphrases for my show like "Hug Me, Brother" and all these things that have become incredibly, like if Parks and Rec lived before social media, I wonder if it would be as quotable.
Right.
Because it's, as you said, so memeable and gifable.
I don't. Yeah, just imagine because, you know, I know. Like for me, treat yourself is my dynamite, and what you talk about, Willis. Those things are in the fabric of our lives, as they say.
Yeah, hasta la vista, baby.
And there was no social media, so I can't imagine, you know, for sure, beloved shows like that, what it would have been like. So whether it's a blessing or a curse that, you know, our shows came along post social media, I don't know. But I will say it gives me a level of, I mean, Treat Yourself really was what made me known. It was the hit, the first hit. The first time I got I remember there being a difference in my visibility is the hunting trip episode where I lose my shit because the my car was shot. And I just remember the tweets pouring in. And I didn't even realize that episode was airing that night. I just remember opening up, I was at work and I remember opening up Twitter and all the at mentions. It was like crazy at mentions about it. And it was about me screaming. So that was like a moment in the show that was a big deal. But when Treat Yourself came out, it was the at mentions through the roof. And I didn't even think it was going to be that great. It was my friend who happened to be visiting me on set. She was there for us for the cupcake part. Oh, no, she was there for the scene where Tom gives Donna the Treat Yourself cupcakes, and then when we did the talking head, where it's like massages, mimosas, that part. And afterwards, she was like, "That's gonna be huge," and I was like, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "That's gonna be fucking huge," and I didn't think anything of it beyond that moment when she said it, and then at work, opening up Twitter, and just all the at mentions coming in that day, and I was like, "What the fuck is going?" Because I wasn't that big on Twitter then.
Sure,
I wasn't that big on Twitter.
And did they know what it was in the writer's room, or was it just sort of a innocuous line that you brought to life, and all of a sudden people were like, "Yes"?
I don't know. Maybe Alan knew when he wrote it. Alan Yang, who created Master of None with Aziz, wrote that episode of Parks.
Wow.
And maybe he saw something in it. I don't know. But I know we made it our own because I remember standing, but we were getting ready to shoot, like the Treat Yourself, we had to come up with how to sing it.
Right.
So I was like, "What do you want to?" And Aziz tends to sing stuff the same way. Like if you listen to a bunch of stuff,
his cadence.
So I was like, "Okay, we got to come up with a way to sing it that doesn't sound the same." So we were like, we like trying to figure out how to sing it. And so we finally figured that out, which screwed us up when we had to do a different year, because we were like, "Oh, it's gonna be hard to sing it for her. She just have to sound 17." Like we would be stressed out about what if this comes back, because people were like, "This has to come back," and it finally came back in the final season. But we did actively work to make it entertaining.
Right.
Not sure if we really thought we certainly didn't think it was going to be that big.
Right.
For sure, never thought I'd be on mugs and T-shirts at Target.
Are you getting money from that?
No.
See, that's some bullshit.
Not a penny.
That's some bullshit. I remember one of my favorite stories is because I have like 2 scenes in this Al Pacino movie that Dan Fogelman wrote, and
I love Dan.
He's the best.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting to be around Pacino, which is a dream, but even better is hanging around his assistant.
Yeah.
Because he's like, "All right, I got to tell you this story." He's like, "So Pacino is doing this movie with Christopher Walken, and they're hanging out, and he's like, I come down with all this Tony Montana merchandise for him to sign off on, like hats and sneakers and all this stuff." And Chris Walken's looking at Pacino and he goes, "Al, do you make money every time they use your likeness?" And Al, he's like, "Of course. I make money from it all." And Chris Walken goes, "I've never made $1 from cowbell. Nothing." I was like, "That's amazing."
Cowbell. That's his go-to.
Ain't that some shit?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. That's the only thing that bugs, is when they do use my picture for stuff.
Yes.
Because usually they'll just use the phrase, which I don't know that I necessarily own it. I think NBC owns the phrase.
Right.
Really.
Well, because I know the kid from my show. Now he tours around like Mexico and stuff, from Drake and Josh, and like he's got merch for his concerts that have catchphrases from the show.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't think those are sanctioned. I'm like, make your money, boo boo, but shit.
Trust me, if I make the fucking Treat Yourself T-shirt,
right,
I'm not sending Aziz a check.
Yeah, good for you.
I'm like, everybody else is fucking making money off this shit.
Now,
I'm too lazy to actually do it.
What season was that, or what episode was that? In the first season when that? No, that was much later.
Yourself?
Yeah,
that was I think season 3.
So it
Or
sounds
four.
like,
3 or 4.
especially with like the musical component, and obviously they knew that you were musical and could sing. Like, do you think that it was this perfect marriage of that they started to really understand you as a performer,
Oh, for sure.
right?
For sure. I mean, I feel like that's what our writers were great at. They incorporated a lot of things from our life. Even on the show I'm on now, they do the same thing.
Yes.
Like they pull stuff from our lives. So, like with Nick, they made Ron Swanson a woodworker because Nick is a woodworker. Nick owns
It's what he does
offer.
primarily now,
It's
right?
what.
Like,
No. He still owns, but he still owns the shop. But that was his thing. That
right.
was his thing before. He was a carpenter and he made things with his hands, and so they use that for the character. I sing classical, so it's one of the things that Mike added in for the wedding of Leslie and I was about to say Adam, but yeah, Adam, sure.
Because they wanted to use.
So they let me, so they let me sing classical in that, and
Because I feel like every great writer, comedy writer, when they know that you can play the part, they then say, "What else you got?
Right.
Like, give us all
Yeah.
your tricks.
Yeah.
Like, can you juggle?
Yeah, it could
You
be
can
hard.
Sing? Like, just because they, by season 2 or 3, they're like, all right, we got to redefine this a little
Right.
bit.
Right. It's easier to give you characteristics that you actually have.
All right, so you grew up in Jersey, and your parents are Liberian immigrants. So, and obviously we're here not just because we're friends, but you have this incredible book that's out. So let's get the plug in now.
Okay.
And we're going to get it throughout. You know what I mean? Go for it.
So
I want
close
that
to being
plug.
the shit. Y'all don't even know.
Y'all don't even know. Available at all retail booksellers. Amazon.
Wherever books are sold, as they say.
Barnes & Noble. If
And
there's
audiobook.
Audible,
audiobook.
Audible, a sponsor of this show sometimes.
nice.
Yes. Shout out Audible. And you talk about it so eloquently in your book, but I feel like having the experience of immigrant parents is sort of unlike any other, especially like as you talk about the pressure of the academics and to sort of bring honor to the name of your family.
Right.
And do you find, and I feel like you never quite shake that totally, right?
No. Well, I mean, I'm an adult now. I pay my own bills. On
Healthy
occasion, pay my
boundaries.
parents' bills.
Cute.
So I don't feel that pressure, but also I'm successful.
Right.
But I don't want to embarrass my family for sure. I don't, I don't want to be in the tabloids for some crazy shit.
Right.
Unless it's going to get me another gig.
And sometimes it does.
I know, sadly. But I don't feel that pressure anymore. But I was stressed when I first moved out here and was hustling and trying to get, stand-up gigs and going on the road and trying to pay rent. I gotta do this for the fam. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't know that it was. It would probably have been more stressful if I was in medical school and not doing well in medical school. With coming out here to be an actor, that's hard, and not everybody succeeds in that. So I was smart enough to know that was a hard thing, and I don't think I would have felt like I ruined the family name if I hadn't made it, because I would have done something else and I would have figured something out. And I came here with the blessing of my parents. It wasn't like they were like, if you don't go to medical school, we're cutting you off,
You're
kind of thing.
disowned.
Yeah, I think they were a little bit. I think they kind of expected me to end up back home.
Sure.
Like,
It's
we'll
so rare.
we'll keep your room.
Yeah.
We'll keep it
You
tidy.
want to come back
for
to
when you
beautiful
come back.
Newark.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So I don't feel that pressure anymore. I don't know that I felt it that much when I came back. I felt it when I was in school. When I
Yes.
was living in their house, I did feel that pressure. But
I mean,
I got over it.
I too, and you talk about it in your book when you say as a teenager seeing your friends act out or go against their parents and how it was so foreign to you.
Yeah.
And similarly, I mean, and God knows my mom and I had fights growing up, but I just felt this intense pressure, and probably because my mom was a single parent, so she had to play both roles.
Yeah.
But she was not to be crossed. Like, she was tough.
Yeah.
And I always say,
Wait, where's your mom from?
she's from New York, from Jersey,
Okay.
West Orange. And like, I would always say that, you know, my mom would never hit me, of course, but she would talk to me like I cut her off in traffic. Like, had no problem using some strong curse words to be like, do you not understand the game we're playing here? Like, you better get on board, because like, I will leave you at the station. Like, and you know, and she was very good. You know, I benefited so much from that. She made a huge sacrifice to give me everything that I got that she didn't have. And so she was very clear. It's not that she laid it on me, but she was like, listen, like, a lot has gone into you having the resource and the you know, just the gifts that you have today. And so you need to understand that in everything you do. Like, it's not by chance. You didn't hit the lottery. Like, a lot went into you.
Right.
And it sounds like, I'm sure you got that a lot from I mean, the sacrifices that they made.
I think, in the book, I say I didn't realize the position we were in when I was young.
Right.
I didn't realize that we were broke. I didn't understand when I asked for something and they weren't certain if they could give it to me, or they said no. When they would tell me, my mother would be like, "We don't have the money," and I would honestly look at them and be like, "How do you go to work every day? You're out of this house,
Right.
10 to 12 hours a day.
Come on.
Working. How do you not have money?"
How do I not have an Atari?
No clue as to where the money went. You know, like, I just didn't get it. I did not get it. When I left college and I had to, you know, get the power and the water and, you know, pay the rent. And the rent I knew I would have to pay, but all the little things, I was like,
renter's insurance.
And then you look at your, you know, the taxes that come out of the check, and you're like, what?
What is happening here?
You have that moment of realization, like, oh,
Right.
they were doing this for a reason. Then when you get even older and learn what people earn doing this or that, and you're like, that's when I realized, oh, that's why they were like, you better get fucking good grades, bitch.
Yes.
and do some shit, because you're not going to earn money if you don't have an education. Like, all of those things. And my mother went to college while I was going to college. So my mother worked all day and then went to school at night.
Where?
Well, when I was in Cliffwood Beach, she went to Monmouth College.
Sure.
And then when she graduated from Monmouth with her Bachelor's of Science, then she went to Keene College for her, or actually she got the associate's degree from Monmouth, and then went to Keene College and another school. So my mother's graduation day was like 2 or 3 days after mine.
Unreal.
And then she went back and got another degree after I'd graduated, and I was going to, I was back in North Carolina.
What did she get her degree in?
Because my mother worked in insurance, so she got some kind of graduate degree in insurance. And I did stand up at her insurance school once in New York, up in New York.
I love that.
So she came to my show. It was a nooner. I hated nooners.
A midday?
Yeah.
Stand-up doesn't belong in the daylight.
It's my nightmare.
Stand-ups are vampires at best.
I know, right?
It gets weird. People that do like even a 7:30 show can get a little weird. You know, like it should be at 9 and after.
Exactly.
What were you? How old were your parents when they moved to America?
My mother was 19.
And
My dad was in his 20s.
Up until that point in Liberia, were they working or just studying?
My mother came for school, so she started.
Gotcha.
You know, she was taking classes. She like I only knew my mother to be in school, so she was always working, always taking classes.
Right.
You know, she was always in. And when she didn't have the money to pay for classes, that's when she didn't have school. But then, you know, she started cleaning people's houses, and so she could finish her degree. So my mother was always in school. My dad had graduated from high school. I don't think my dad went to college. I'm thinking about it now. Like in Liberia. So when they
Right.
came, he just worked.
And was to them, did they always imagine that they were gonna migrate to America?
I think so. That was kind of the thing.
Right.
For a lot of their friends came to the States around that time.
And I know you talk about in your book that you had plenty of cousins and family members living with you guys, but what was there any other, like Liberian people living in Jersey at that time? Like, what was the community like?
There were lots of Liberians in Newark, where I was born. There weren't any that I knew of where we ended up living in Edison or in Cliffwood Beach.
Right.
So they did have a community and they had a lot of family, but they were spread out. So there were a lot of good friends in New York and New Jersey, parts of New Jersey, and they're still still tight with those friends. So they do have their community, but Newark was the area that I remember there being a lot of Liberians. We moved out of Newark when I went to when I got into second grade.
And when did you have your first sort of inkling that you had a love for the arts, or your first moment where you felt as though, maybe I could do this?
As a performer?
Yeah.
I did plays. Well, I will say in second grade, I had my first solo in our what do they call it? The programming, the music programming, where they would bring, parents would come, they would do the full day, all the grades, every class.
Yeah,
would
the
do
big show off
performance.
day.
Yeah. Why am I forgetting the word? When
Yeah,
you go to the
like a
auditorium.
showcase.
Yeah, but
assembly.
Assembly, yes, that was it.
I've been to some good ass assemblies. I love it. Pledge of Allegiance before.
So I had my first solo performance in second grade, and I sang the solo in Chim Chimney, Chim Chimney, Chim Chim Chimney.
A classic.
And then I remember in third grade, I had a solo. We did the music from HMS Pinafore, and I played Little Buttercup.
Classic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you volunteer for the solos, or did someone hear you in the choir and they were like,
they would, yeah, the
Retta.
music teacher would be
Yeah.
like, all
They
right,
knew.
you're gonna sing this, whatever. But I think I was the only one in my grade that soloed in second grade. So that I think, not that I thought I was special, but I was like, I know I can sing, but I honestly, singing was my thing. Dancing was my thing. Like, I love to dance.
it's still to this
But
day?
I do like to dance, if my raggedy back would let me. But like, just dance for fun. I never took classes or anything like that. I
Right.
would just, if the music was playing, I was dancing. It wasn't until, I guess, like junior high, when we have chorus class, and then the teacher would be like, "Oh, you're good. You're a soprano." Like, that's the first time I knew I was a soprano.
Right.
And
Which is
would
what
ask
you
me
want
to
to be. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes I'm mezzo. Sometimes I'm
Okay.
mezzo soprano.
You ain't trying to be an alto, though. You want to get those high notes.
But I can harmonize. So every once in a while, I'll be like, "Oh, did you know me? Did you do tenor?"
Yeah.
Because there's no men in this choir.
I'll go low.
But that was the first time that I realized, I was like, "Oh, I can sing." So when people would say I could sing, I would be like, "Mm-hmm."
Yes.
That kind of thing.
And did you ever train it? Did you ever
No,
take
I
lessons?
just took I just took music classes,
Right.
regular music classes that we had, that we were supposed to take throughout grade school and junior high. And then I can't remember if we were allowed, if we chose electives in high school, but I always did chorus.
Right.
And sang in chorus, but that was just for fun. That was, so I did plays in high school. That was fun. I love the camaraderie. I love the backstage of it all. I like
Yeah.
performing, but I loved backstage. I love doing silly things with our friends.
Artists.
And trying to make fun of make people laugh from off stage and that kind of thing. That was fun for me.
Did you immediately identify with the community of actors and artists more so than perhaps the pre-med science students, or you wouldn't really make that discernment yet?
No, I was always a nerd. School was my thing. Like, I love math and science. Right. I felt like I have an empirical mind, and so math and science appealed to me more than English and history, because I thought that English and history were just memorization, and writing papers was subjective. I don't know how. I didn't understand. I mean, I know you could look at a paper and be like, this is shitty, right. but to say this is a great paper and this one isn't, like, I'd be like, yeah, I deserve an A on every paper I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, that's in the eye of the beholder.
But when it comes to math and science, I'm like, there's one answer.
Right.
And you may find a different way to get it, but as long as you got the answer, you got the answer. That's it. There's one answer.
But what about when teachers would be like, show your work? I'd be like, for what?
Yeah, no, I can show my work. That's the thing. I could do it.
Yeah,
But I liked that. I liked that, to be able to...
The clear black and white.
Yes.
This
100%.
is right.
So that, for me, was always going to be my future. So I was, like, once I decided, like, medical school, which... I think since ninth grade, I was like, I'm going to be a doctor.
Neurosurgeon.
I was always going to be. Yeah, once I got to college is when I decided I was going to be a neurosurgeon. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do.
Well, it's the most badass.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Right? It was the hardest. It would be the hardest thing to do. So I was like,
you ain't trying to be a podiatrist. Exactly. No hate on foot doctors, by the way. Oh, I'm going to get killed for that one.
You are.
Like,
but they are. They
profession.
do. The doctors of the soul,
yes.
if you will. Because I've had to go to a podiatrist on many occasions.
God
so
bless
I appreciate them.
I have flat feet, and I've had orthotics made for those said feet. And then you talk about this in your book, and like any good Jew, whenever a Jew is mentioned, it like lasers out of me. I'm like, oh, I got to read further. Where you talk about your experience growing up, where until you got to college, many of your friends were like Jewish, and your mom had said something to the effect of like, if anyone can sympathize or understand the plight of African Americans, I'd love, because I know I have my own experience in feeling that growing up and who my friends were, but I'd love to hear from your side what that was. I always
thought, my mother always loved Jewish people. It was so weird to me. I'm like, why do you just like Jewish people? Like, why don't you just like people? And I'm telling you, it's because I never learned, when I was young, I didn't learn about the Holocaust. It wasn't until I was older.
Yes.
And then I was like, then I understood what she meant by the plight of a people. Because where I grew up, the Jewish people were the rich people.
Right.
They were the affluent. But I learned later from mother, that's because they fucking worked really hard to get where they were. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was in a place where I was like, oh, Jewish people are rich.
Sure.
They get 8 days at Hanukkah. That's
man.
That's all I knew, because I didn't learn anything about Jewish people other than they had the nicest clothes in my high school. In my junior high.
Until you learn that Hanukkah, the parents get hip to that shit, and the first 4 days are like socks. You're like, come on. Like, where's the Game Boy and shit?
Exactly.
Sorry to cut you off.
But, so, my mother... She knew what she knew in her head, and she left me to learn what I was going to learn eventually. So but I never understood. I never understood her love for Jewish people. I remember my friend Jason in college when he brought back some of my stuff from college, because I didn't come straight home to Jersey after the freshman year had ended. And so we went to go pick up my stuff at his parents' house, the Fischelbergs. And
great name.
And his mom, Joyce, we left there, and she kept talking about Joyce. That Joyce. I love that Joyce. She is just the best. She's lovely. And I was like, you just like Jewish people. Like,
right. I love that.
I don't know. It was just a weird thing. She was like, Jewish women are just lovely, and they could do no wrong as far as she was concerned.
I love it. And she probably identified too, because many Jewish women, at least that I know, are like tough and like, very direct with what they're feeling, and don't take any BS.
And they're very mothering.
Yes.
Yeah.
Want to fix the world.
It's really funny.
Oh, no. Is this another ad interrupting this podcast that I am thoroughly enjoying? I don't want to listen to this. Oh, wait, no. Let me assure you, you do. Because have you heard of Stitch Fix, y'all? Let me learn you. Stitch Fix is an online personal styling service that finds and delivers clothes, shoes, and accessories to fit your body, budget, and lifestyle. Look, you'll be paired with your very own personal stylist who will handpick 5 items to send right to your door. Just go to stitchfix.com/curious and tell them your sizes, what styles you like, and how much you want to spend on each item. Look, recently I did the whole sign-up process. Couldn't have been easier. They asked me a couple questions about my body type. I said it's sort of like, athletic with certain chubby, hot areas. You know what I mean? I'm talking lower back. I'm talking inner thigh. We don't have to get into details. I think they got it from the way I described it. Anyway, told them, what colors I tend to enjoy, patterns for shirts. There weren't that many questions, but just enough where I have full faith that when I get my box in the mail, it is going to be full of items that I will love. Look, get started now at stitchfix.com/curious, and you'll get an extra 25% off when you keep all 5 items in your box. That's stitchfix.com/curious to get started today. stitchfix.com/curious. Let's get back to the show.
By the way, someone commented on Amazon, did a review of my book, and said that my book had hints of anti-Semitism.
Are you fucking kidding me?
And intolerance to the LGBTQ. And I was like, what book was she reading? I was like, because I brought up that my mom liked Jewish people, that she thought I was being anti-Semitic.
What?
And I was angry. I remember calling my publicist and being like, the fuck? Like, what? I was like, is she trying to sabotage my book or what?
That is some...
Yeah. So am I crazy? Because I was like...
That's a bugged out fucking
Okay.
statement.
Yeah.
And has much further implications on just the world in which we are living in.
Yeah,
We're just
maybe.
like... I mean, because you perform... you perform at colleges, right?
Not anymore, but I did enough for years.
For years.
Yeah.
And I do too. And while my stuff has always been, other than cursing, has been pretty...
Right.
Green for the most part. It's like so many comedians have stopped performing at colleges because they're so afraid of being like the slightest bit un-PC.
Right.
Not that you're...
I just heard that too. Because
Yeah.
I haven't done it in so long, I don't.
I mean, because it's like we're just such snowflakes. Like, and God forbid someone says the wrong thing and it registers
Yeah.
with our fragile psyche. But, it's funny too. Chappelle has that great joke in his act where he talks about he's like, the only, and I'm paraphrasing, but he'll be like, you can't have a conversation with a Jew on who's suffered more, like black people or Jews. He's like, 'cause then you go to Holocaust, and then you go slavery, and then the Jews go, well, what about Egypt? And you go, fuck, I didn't know we were going back that far. God.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, I love that.
Classic.
And so when you leave college, you go to work for GlaxoSmithKline.
Yeah, it was just Glaxo when I went there.
And that's you're talking like Pfizer, these are huge pharmaceutical companies.
Uh-huh.
What's it like being inside the doors of a superpower like that?
It was pretty great in that. So
you were a chemist for them.
Mhm, I was a contract chemist.
Wow.
So I didn't work for Glaxo. I worked for basically a temp agency.
Sure.
But it was a beautiful campus. The buildings were gorgeous. The property was gorgeous. So it was like going to a very beautiful place. It was very pristine. I like, it wasn't like a hospital because hospitals have a different implication, but it's very clinical and clean, and I like that.
Yes.
I like a neat space. Like this space, it's too small. It makes me crazy.
Do you want to
in my
paint
pool
it?
house.
Yeah, paint it for the listeners a little bit.
Well, I'm living in my pool house while my house is being renovated.
Did you ever think you'd say that sentence?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
good for
you. But and I basically got it because I wanted a space in case one of my parents had to come and live with me, that kind of thing. So it was really, I was buying it with the future in mind, kind of thing.
In Yiddish, we have a word. It's called kenahura. If the worst happens,
Right.
And
Exactly.
so much in the way we're similar. I'm always ready for the kenahura.
Right,
Yeah, when
exactly.
the shit hits the fan.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
So I'm very organized and that kind of thing. So working in a lab, and you have to have, at least my section was for sure, you have to have everything organized, you have to know where everything is, and to me it was like perfect. And then like the cafeteria was insane. Like the options, they it was like a subsidized
Right.
food, so it was cheap. All
Oh,
my friends would come to Glaxo's campus to eat lunch. Like
bless.
they're like $10, and they were taking half their shit home. Like it was crazy. So it was really a nice place to work. I loved it, and I liked the people that I worked with. Um, but once and it was the first time I was, earning my own money and taking care of myself and that sort of thing. So it was a great start. But once I was, had been doing it for a little bit and was living alone, like I said, for the first time, and I would watch TV. TV was my roommate. That's when I mean, I always loved TV, but that's when I was like, oh, this is what I want to do,
Right.
So I was figuring out how I could get here and do that.
And do you find that that's been a through line in your life? Because I find it is for me, and Oprah Winfrey talks.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you drop that name?
And she talks about a voice, like
Mm-hmm.
this inner voice that for her is crystal clear. And it's like a God consciousness, whatever it is she believes in, but it's like something giving her a clear direction of like, keep going forward in this way. Like, this is what you're meant for. And it sounds like you had a little bit of that, like a clarity of vision.
Yeah, I always describe it as once I decided that's what I was going to do, I always knew it was going to happen. There was always a feeling of knowing not if, just when. I was curious as to when. I knew it was going to happen. It was going to happen. I was going to make it happen. I don't know how, it was just going to happen. And because I feel like I said, I have an empirical mind, I'm like planning, I do my lists. I do, I love to check something off a list.
Right.
So I was like, I need to do this, 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 because that's what this comic did, that's what that comic did, that kind of thing. So I always thought it was going to happen. And I guess part of it is also, my mother is super religious. And I was like, God's not going to let me down.
Right.
I was like, Debbie Sirleaf prays too damn hard for me for it not to happen.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So I've always had that in my head. It was like, and worst case scenario, if all this goes to shit, I can always go back to Jersey. My parents are not going to not let me live at home.
And you had a degree from Duke to fall back on, which ain't bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a degree from homeschool to fall back on. So this doesn't work. I mean, if no one listens to this podcast, I'm fucked. I'll be the one in the guest house.
Oh, God.
But I think that's so, yeah, I think, it's that weird balance, right? And I feel like as comedians and funny people, it serves you to have a very clear vision of yourself.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Right?
I feel like I can't remember if I mentioned it in the book or not, but Amy and I had a conversation about it in the makeup trailer once. She said the same thing. She's like, "Oh, I always knew it was going to happen. I just always had it in my head it was going to happen." So whether you're delusional or it was
you
meant
need
in the
some
stars,
delusion,
you have
right?
to just know. You have to, as they say, you have to believe. There's a reason they say it. You have to just believe that it's going to happen, because otherwise, what are you working for?
Right.
What are you putting in all this effort if you don't think it's going to happen? You have to just know in your heart that it's going to be what you set out to have or make happen for you. So yeah, because I still have things in my mind, that
That you
I'm
want to
like
accomplish.
that I'm like, oh, that's gonna happen. It's coming. Don't worry about
Right,
it.
benchmarks.
You just have to do the hustle, do the job, do the work,
But
and let it happen.
Did it look quite like this? Or how did you, I'm always fascinated in that. I love the phrase, like, God's the only one that draws straight with crooked lines.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you were thinking about this as the chemist, or maybe even as time went on a little bit, did it look like this? Or were you like, no, I'm going to be, because you talk about like, Retta, the sitcom, or what, and you've done stuff.
Oh, right. Well, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I was like, I came here with the plan of having the Retta show.
Yes.
I don't have the Retta show, but because I'm older, I've grown up. I'm now on a show that I get to do a lot of drama on. It's a dramedy, but I get to do drama on, and I mean I call myself the crybaby on the show because I'm like I cry every freaking episode, but it's not. That's certainly not what I thought I would be doing.
Sure.
But I feel the most comfortable in that right now, and
Really?
so yes, so. I mean, maybe it's because I don't go to therapy and it gives me a chance to cry in public.
Yeah, a healthy
You know
outlet.
what I mean? So,
It's
but
one
it
of my
just feels
Right.
right for me, and I feel like I'm gonna be able to do a little more drama. I don't know if he's bringing one of my boxes. I don't know what that is. Oh, I know
Got
what it
these
is.
handsome
It's
construction
my
workers.
noodles. It's my noodles from my pool.
Cute. Okay.
I love the floaties.
Listeners, we've made it. We get our noodles delivered. You know what I mean? We have multiple noodles for the pool. Now, speaking of that, doing something like your show now, which is a dramedy and requires of you maybe things that you didn't originally think you were going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
What's your process as an actress as far as breaking things down? How do you prepare for a role, and then once you've got it, what's your preparation look like?
Um,
And maybe it's
This is
not
gonna be embarrassing.
multi-level.
I just read the script.
Yeah.
I just read the script, and with this particular script, this pilot, when I got it, when I read it, the part, and I knew, the part that she wanted me to do, I cried when I read it, which
So it moved you.
So yes, so it moved me emotionally. So it was easy to, as soon as I was reading it, I knew who this person was. I got her. I got pretty much the three leads in the show. I got them. I understood where they were coming from. So once I get that, I just read it. I think I read stuff. I read it as the character. A lot of times, you go in as an actor. You go in for stuff that you're not sure if it's going to be good.
Right.
You're not sure.
Most things.
You're not sure how to. You're not sure how to portray the character sometimes, and so I felt like a lot of times I was just winging it. It was different with Parks because the character wasn't fully fleshed out. It didn't. I was a co-star. I wasn't a regular. So I got to grow and create that character.
Yeah. It required you to bring something of yourself to it.
Right.
Right.
With when I did Girlfriend's Guide, that as soon as I read it, I got that character. Even though I've never been married and divorced, I got the pain that she was going through. So I feel like if I read it and I get it, then it's easy. You read the script a couple of times, you just start feeling it. I don't necessarily do research or
Sure.
I don't create. I used to think that you had to create a backstory for characters. I don't do that. That's not my method. Every once in a while, I think once you start playing a character, you're like, oh, I bet she, had a boyfriend that broke her heart in seventh grade. Like sometimes you'll come up, but I don't start off like that. I just have to feel comfortable and feel that I understand it's what it fall. I have to feel I understand it. And if I feel like I understand the character, then it's just easier to play.
Right.
But even so, sometimes you're on set and the director will say something and you're like, and you'll learn something just by a direction that they gave you.
Oh, it'll give you a way in.
Yeah.
I think that's so, and sometimes when people don't have a quote unquote traditional process, the way that it's taught, sometimes they'll feel like they have to, qualify it or sort of apologize. But I see so much, because sometimes I feel like I have too much training and it works against me, because I'm constantly wondering well, did I really unearth this? Did I did I throw all the shit that I've learned at this? And if I haven't.
Well, I feel like I feel when I'm working around actors that are like that ask a lot of questions and stuff
Too
like
many
that.
questions, I think.
I get uncomfortable because I'm like, am I not asking enough questions?
I'm the same way.
I'm very paranoid about that.
Oh, and you know, some actors just ask questions to ask, to sound smart.
Yes.
When you're like, just shut up, shut
Yes,
up,
yes.
just
I've
do it.
experienced that on a film or two, but I do feel a little bit of like an imposter when I'm working with somebody that is like, well, when they're asking about their character, I'm like, should I be asking about my character? Like, am I not?
But don't worry, because same for me, watching other people that just, as you said, and I've seen it done many times like that, where just something clicks in the reading of it, and there's this inner life going on, and maybe in a beautiful way, maybe you walk around emotionally open in a great way, so that you don't have to get rid of all that the defenses and dig down deep, because you're like, it's here, I wear it on my sleeve, it's close to the vest, so that when I see it in a character, I can just allow it to come through. And I always think that's so great. Conversely, I heard this great story about Denzel Washington directed an episode, I believe, Ellen Pompeo was talking about this, that he directed an episode of Grey's Anatomy because he was friends with Debbie Allen, and he was getting ready to direct Fences, and she's like, well, come direct a show, like, you know, just have fun, it'll get you in the groove. And Ellen's like, the greatest thing that ever happened was actors would ask him, like, well, you know, what's my character's motivation in this scene? Or like, what's my character supposed to be doing? And Denzel would look at him and be like, oh, you don't know? Oh, you don't know? And I'm like, yes, I'd be like, yes, sir, Mr. Washington, sir, Commodore Washington, Admiral. Like, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's sort of like, understandably, he's like, that's your prep.
Right.
Like, you should know.
Right.
When did you make the change, the leap to share status of, I'm going to be known by one name?
Oh, that was.
I know we're going a big.
It was when I first started doing stand up. I was at Charlie Goodnight's in Raleigh, North Carolina, and the MC came out and asked, "Who's next?" I said, "I am." "What's your name?" "Marietta Sirleaf." "What?" "Just Retta." So it was when I was first started doing stand up. I started going by Retta just because it was easier, stand up wise.
Does everyone call you Retta now?
I mean, not my family, but
They call you like,
Marietta. My family.
They
my
call
family,
you your full name,
no,
or
my
do
family
they
calls
have?
me Neek. My family calls
Right.
me Neek. People from college and high school call me Marietta, but I think some are trying to call me Retta. Some call me Retta, but some just call me Marietta. Like, it's weird to them to say Retta.
Right.
And it's weird to hear them say Retta. When I get calls, I know from what part of my life it comes from by what they call me. And then, so I have a few friends from college here that they call me Retta because we're in a group of people here in LA, and most people from LA know me as Retta.
Right.
So it took them a while to get used to Retta, but now they call me Retta.
Well, because Retta, obviously, it's a part of your name, and it's just so easy. Like, I have certain friends that have asked me to call them shit like Nighthawk, and I've been like, my guy, your name is fucking Steve. Like,
Right.
I'm not calling you Nighthawk.
Wait, I think I said the entertainer that was calling me. He did a bit where he's like, something like Big Daddy or something. And he was like, man, I'm a grown ass man. I ain't about to call another man Big Daddy. So, it wasn't Big Daddy, but it was so fucking
Something
funny
paternal. Like, now, when you were saying before about how a director will give you an insight into a character or something, say something that helps you click in, what do you, and I like to ask every actor this when I interview them, what are you looking for from a director, from when you have a great relationship with a director? What do you think that they're doing that you appreciate?
It's actually hard for me to know. I do like to know that I gave them what they asked for. I will say, here's what I don't like from some directors. if a director is trying to tell you what they want and they start going into a story to give you an idea, I don't like that. I like a short, to the
Yes.
point direction, because they'll even sometimes even the words that they'll use, because Paul Schneider said to me, just give me three adjectives. Just give me three adjectives. That's it for your direct. If you want me to do something, give me three adjectives. Because sometimes you'll get into a story and you'll be like, like, okay, so when you're skydiving, like when you first get up in there,
Oh,
like, and you're like,
Jesus.
I've never skydived. That's
Yeah.
not my thing. So I have no point of reference.
Right.
So, and even so, to them, skydiving is great. To me, it would cause anxiety.
Right.
So a story doesn't help. Sometimes it tends to go beyond. Like when they started telling you what they wanted, you got it, and then they kept talking, and then kept talking, and then they talk into this circle, and then you're like, I don't remember what you really wanted, what you originally said. Now you're like, I thought you wanted one thing, but the end of the story just took me to another place, and now I have no idea. So I rather you just say, because I've done this with directors,
Yeah.
that they'll go on and on and on and on and on, and then after they finish talking, I go, so you want me happier?
Right.
Just, that's all I need, because
Right.
the story, like, I don't need to get.
Don't
You don't
speak
have
to
to be
me
like,
in metaphors.
yeah, you don't need to. When you meet somebody and you're so attracted to them, as soon as you meet them, and there's just like this thing in your heart, and I'm like, no, I've never had love at first sight. Like, you know what I mean? I don't, and you
Right.
don't want to say that to the
Yeah.
director. So you're like, uh-huh.
I'm actually pretty cynical.
Yeah. So I mean, you're like, I kind of get an idea, but if you just say, just peppier, or if you're saying, do it like your heart's racing, that's something that I get.
Right.
But when you start telling a story, you're gonna lose me.
Yeah, you can't
Because I'm like,
identify
I remember
necessarily.
lines,
Right.
and you're changing lines, and the less you give me, the easier it's gonna be.
My good friend who's a brilliant director, his name's Jacob Estes, and he directed this movie Mean Creek that I work with him on, and he always says, I try to always give verbs, like actionable words. So like I remember sometimes he would just be, I'd have a scene with one of the girls in the movie and he'd be like, take care of her. Just take care of her. Like just, and it just made it, because all of a sudden it's like whatever, like, because I know how to take care of someone. And so then I could let my imagination go off
Right.
as it meant to me, instead of him trying to explain, like, this one time, I was really worried about my sister.
right.
And she had chicken pox. Like,
Yeah.
like, my guy, I can't
Yeah,
identify.
I think sometimes as storytellers they feel like they always have to tell a story, and I'm like, no, homie, just give me the one word or the one thing, because it's there.
Right.
You've got to try it. But different performers are different. I think some people love to go through the trip with the director and be like, yeah. Because sometimes you're like this, but then, but the end you get, no,
No.
happier, sadder, angrier, more aggressive. Just give me that.
But I bet you're like me too, and we touched on it before, like those actors that ask questions just to ask questions,
Yeah.
because they want to seem like very
They're deep
in
into
their,
it, and
Oh.
this means so much to them.
I'm
and
like, we got an hour till lunch. Like, can we please?
we're in Petaley, homie.
I'm dying.
Get to it.
It is chilly. I'm wearing wool. This is uncomfortable. Oh my god.
Yeah, I've seen that, but it's so funny because you could see like the crew being like, really? That's
Glaze
the question
over.
you wanted to ask?
Yes.
Really?
Now, what do you do? Because you've done like some great co-star, like you talk about with Parks and Rec, how it started as a co-star and guest stars and whatnot. And it's funny, when I interviewed Yvette, I talked about this. How would you walk on a set and make the most out of what you were doing to like leave to leave a mark on what you were doing, and yet there's a balance, right? Because you want to stay out of the stars' way. You don't want to get too much in their orbit.
Well, so with Parks, it was different because I started in the pilot. So
Everyone was new.
yeah, so it was everybody's first day of work. and even though I wasn't a regular, it starts at the top of the call sheet. Amy was very kind and open, and people were you know what I mean? It was
And that's everything, right? For someone like her to set the tone.
Yes, yeah, for sure. For the top of the call sheet to be cool, it's going to be a cool shoot.
Right.
Chances are. Unless you have an incompetent crew, which generally they'll fix that. You know what I mean? I rarely got a lot of like co-stars and guest stars. So I did do a few shows, but when you're first starting out, you're scared no matter what. So, my first appearance was on Moesha. And
classic.
So, right? So I was
Ray J, come on.
So I was just nervous to be on a set. So I was very much like P's and Q's, I didn't really talk.
Right.
I wasn't trying to make friends. I was like trying to be in the right spot because I didn't know the business. I didn't know about hitting your marks, and I didn't know terminology. So I was just like, shut up and just figure it out. I didn't know 10-1 meant the bathroom until Parks.
Right, which is the code that they use on the walkie-talkie for anyone that doesn't know.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to be like, Josh is going to need about 20 because he ate a huge breakfast burrito at craft service. So they go, Josh is 10-1,
Exactly.
Retta's 10-1. Sometimes I'm like, it's going to be a 10-2.
Exactly. So I haven't had the opportunity to really go in and guest star on a show that's been on. I will say, so for Girlfriend's Guide, I went in on the second season. So that was something, I went in, and I'd watched the first season and liked it. So I went in, and that season, most of my stuff was with Lisa. So I was just dealing with Lisa, really.
Right.
I didn't have to deal with the relationship of the girls on set, because by the time I did scenes with all the other girls, I've been working with Lisa so much that I was comfortable with her, and she's the lead. So, but when you first go, and she had called me before I went up to Vancouver, and so I kind of felt like I made a friend before I got there. So
great.
that wasn't hard. I did a sitcom once, and most of my scenes were with the lead and the other actor. And so that was a little bit nerve-wracking because you don't know how that set works.
Right.
And you don't know if they're fun, if they're whatever, you know what I mean? So it is a little bit hard, but I feel like after you've done it for years, you're going in to go do your job. And so you kind of know how to conduct yourself and kind of be to yourself. But chances are, if it's a good set, the lead of the set is going to come to you and welcome you and make you feel comfortable, because you don't want to be uncomfortable unless their method, and it's a scene where you're supposed to be uncomfortable with the person.
Right.
And then it
just
works for you anyway.
And that's so right. And especially on a TV set, I found that like it really is you're going into someone's home and you're like, is this a shoes on or shoes off house?
Yeah.
Like, just please tell me, let me stay off of the nice furniture.
Exactly.
And I remember my friend went to go direct a show, which will go nameless, but happened to be on when Grandfathered was on with another huge 80s star. Anyway, and I remember he was directing the show, and he came in, and the star of the show kind of said, like, was very much put on this air of like, you are a guest here and we're going to do it this way. Like, just was making his job impossible.
Right.
And he was like, listen, and to my buddy's, something I really respect in him, he went to the guy's trailer in between scenes and said, listen, like, if you don't want me here, I'll go.
Right.
Like, I'm here to direct your show. I just want to make it great. But you can't yell at me in front of the crew.
Right.
Like, we can't have that kind of dissidence in front of people. And he was like, oh, no. I didn't mean it to come across the way. He's like, well, it did.
And that's the thing. Like, first of all, manners.
Right.
But obviously, I'm going to say obviously that guy could be an asshole in general. But maybe something went down before and it was still, like, rubbing his ass. And so he was like, that's not going to happen again. however that goes down, then it's on you and the production team to tell the director how you do things on set.
Right.
Because we've had situations, I remember there were episodes of Park, because you have a different director every episode.
Right.
And I remember there being an episode where we're doing a lot of takes. We don't ever do this many takes. And I just remember we were literally on the 15th take of something.
Jesus, that's a lot.
And I remember Amy saying, I think we got it.
Yeah.
And that's how she let him know that we don't do 20 takes
well done,
on
Amy.
this show. She's like, I think we got it.
Yeah.
I think we got it on that one.
Well, this ain't House of
we're moving
Cards.
on.
Like,
Because I was like, we'll never finish this show.
right. And with great comedy too, if you're going past 4 or 5 takes and you're not completely rewriting the scene,
Right.
you've got it.
Yeah.
Curious with Josh Peck is brought to you by the new Showtime original series Kidding, directed by Michelle Gondry and starring Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey. Carrey stars as Jeff, aka Mr. Pickles, an icon of children's television and a beacon of kindness and optimism to both children and adults alike. When his family life starts to unravel, Jeff discovers that keeping it all together isn't as easy as 1, 2, 3. Will Jeff head for a breakdown or a breakthrough? Don't miss the new series Kidding, Sundays at 10 p.m. following new episodes of Shameless only on Showtime. Watch the premiere of Kidding for free on YouTube now. Now, and I'll let you go in 2 more questions. When being on a set like Parks and Rec, especially early on, these people, the Aziz, the Chris, Nick, they weren't the superstars that they are yet, but they were hitters.
Right.
You were surrounded by hitters. Did you see early on where you were like, Chris Pratt, you're going to be a movie star? Or were you just like, you're funny?
Well, with Chris, for me, I knew Chris from Everwood.
Gotcha.
I loved his character on Everwood, had a crush on that character just because he liked the nerdy girl. And so any boy that falls for the nerdy girl or the chubby girl, I was like, he's a dream.
He gets us.
So so I just remember Chris being a macho guy with heart on that show on Everwood.
And he's kind of a guy's guy in real life, or at least
Yes.
from what I get from his IG.
Yeah. Likes to hunt,
fish.
likes to fish.
Right.
That's his, likes to shoot. That's his
dude.
thing. So when I saw him on set, I was like, Jesus, this guy's fucking funny. I just remember being like, he's so goddamn funny. Because Chris also was a guest star.
Wow.
He became a regular, I think, season 2. And then, as we went on, I was like, I could see Chris thinking. He's a thinker. And I'm like, he's really smart. Chris is really, really smart. So he went through a whole thing. For me, in my eyes, he went through so many things. And I was like, oh, this guy's the whole package. Did I see
Guardians
him?
of the Galaxy?
Did I see... No, Guardians of the Galaxy didn't surprise me. Because
it's funny.
the character... Yeah, that is classic Chris Pratt. But... to get the stage, to get to do that on a giant sci-fi, space movie, that was the thing that you're like, holy shit. So no, I did not see that coming. But I always was like, he's so smart, he's so funny. I know him to be, dramatic. So he had everything as far as I was concerned. So I just loved when Chris worked because I used to laugh. I mean, everybody makes me laugh. That whole group was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it was a murderer's row of comedians.
But with everyone else, I was nervous because I knew them all to be great improvers and improvisers, and I was deathly afraid of improvisation, deathly, and it gave me panic attacks to think that they'd want me to try something else. Like if a line came at me that wasn't my line, oof. I was so, it wasn't the line, the scripted line, I'd get nervous about it. And I wrote about it in the book where it was my first week of shooting in the pilot, and Amy or Leslie was going through the office and asked about a leaf on a board. And she's like, where's this from? And I turned around and I looked at it and I was like, am I supposed to speak? Because I was not scripted. I did not have any lines in the pilot.
Right.
And I was like, outside. And the fact that when they yelled cut and she responded by dying laughing just kind of just saved me from being like a psychopath going to work.
Right,
Because
a
those
terrified
guys
kid.
improvise all the time. And I was like, that's not my vein of gold. I don't know what to do.
Did it become your thing?
Yeah,
in
it
time?
had to.
Right.
But also I had, by then you were making friends with people and I knew it was a safe space.
That's
another thing. Having losing the fear of rejection or judgment.
Right.
When you don't now, I don't care. I've done it I've done it with the best of them. I've done it long enough that I don't fear a joke not working or whatever. You just try whatever. And now we even do it on our show. We do it with mostly you do it when you're trying to be funny, but we do it with our dramatic scenes and stuff like that. So I've gotten to a place now because I got 7 years with some of the best improvisers.
Do you worry anymore that you're going to work? Like, do you feel that every day? Never lose it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, once I know, show got picked up. Okay, so I have that anxiety is off until we finish shooting. Yes, for at least the 13 episodes I know we're supposed to shoot, or however many we're supposed to shoot.
Right.
That anxiety is gone, but you still have a fear when a show's over. Like, when's it gonna happen next? What am I gonna get? I the idea of going into a room to audition makes me want to throw up.
When's the last time you had to audition for something?
Like a month ago.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It was for a Netflix movie.
And how are you in the audition room? Are you, because I imagine...
I'm a wreck.
Really? Because I'm projecting, right? Because if I'm you, I'm like, I have quite the track record.
No.
Like,
no.
You are welcome that I'm showing up. You're a wreck.
Well, here's
Me
the thing.
too.
I know people always think that, and so I'm like, well, if people think that, then don't make me audition. You know what I mean?
Fuck
like,
yes.
You know what I mean? Don't make me audition.
Absolutely.
I did not audition for Good Girls.
Right.
That was written. Jenna said, I wrote this with you in mind. So I was like, oh yeah, thank God. So I didn't have to audition for it. So I got to, and it's a part that I loved, and it was amazing. So that it was like the gods looked down on me and were like, let's just give her this one. You know what I mean? Like,
she's putting enough work. She was a chemist. She was stoked
in her time. So I think I got very, very lucky that I got a part that I love playing. I love the show. I love the story. I love the vibe. I love the girls. I love who I work with. Grateful for Reno, who plays my husband, because there's another thing. There's a thing about having to play an intimate relationship with someone you don't know.
Right.
And so Reno just made me feel so comfortable because I went in like.
And had you had intimate or like love scenes before, or any version of that?
No. Well, that's not true. That's not true because I had intimate scenes with Malcolm Jamal Warner in Girlfriend's Guide.
Theo?
Yes. But
gosh.
I mean, we didn't have any like sex scenes. We had bed scenes, but nothing crazy. But it was our characters met and got to have a relationship.
Sure.
On this, we start off married with 2 kids, so there's a certain level of knowing a person we apparently know each other for 20 years that you just met, and I feel like that's something hard to do, especially if you're supposed to have an intimate, loving relationship with someone and you meet them for the first time and you got to play a scene with someone you love.
Oh, yeah.
And so that says a lot about his personality, just his personality making me feel so comfortable off the bat. You can learn it.
That's huge.
You can learn it.
Sometimes living in the world that we live in, we have to be the utmost beyond respectful and have the foresight when you're doing any sort of intimate relationship on screen. Mm-hmm. But sometimes in my experience, when I've had to play someone's lover or boyfriend or girlfriend or boyfriend and girlfriend. Don't worry, I'm multi-versatile, you know what I'm saying? I bring a lot to the party.
Wait, what was that show? Quantum Leap, where he would play women and men all the time. When he bounced, he'd have to bounce in time, and he would bounce it to different bodies.
I could do that shit.
That's your Quantum Leap.
I would ask the actress sometimes, just on set, like 5 minutes before, I'd say, "Can I hold your hand? Can I just like
right?"
Because we're about to be like intimate and have this whole thing on screen, and it just feels weird if we are completely separate beings the minute or two before.
Right.
So if you feel comfortable enough, like, can we just hold hands for a second? And there's because, there's something so intimate about holding someone's hand or looking into someone's eyes or a kiss or something like that can be so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so I feel like that's a good thing to do, to obviously to ask. But I also would be like, if you could put your hand on my back when we walk out, like just to tell them it's okay to touch me,
yes,
or whatever, so that they're like, oh, okay. And then you start, like with Keegan Michael Key was the first person I ever kissed on camera, and that was at our wedding on the show. And so that episode, we're supposed to be in love at this point, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And our characters have dated and supposedly had crazy sex and stuff like that, but that was the first time we actually touched, was our wedding.
Right.
Really. And so we would do the scene. So we would let's hold hands. So we would hold hands when we were looking at the church before the wedding and stuff like that. So it just makes you feel closer. So then when we were shooting the reception scenes, it was very comfortable and easy to hold his hand while we're standing there talking to people. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's things that it's hard. It's hard to play, to feel comfortable. You may think it looks fine and comfortable, but sometimes it's weird.
Yeah, people can see right away.
Because I had to make out with this guy on Girlfriend's Guide, and I had just met him. Actors have to do that all the time.
Oh yeah,
it's rare for me.
And that's sometimes in my head where I'm like, my job is so cool.
See, in my head,
full
I'm
transparency.
My job is so scary.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, we all watched the first 50 Shades of Grey, the first movie, and I was like, yo, y'all hate each other. I'm like, I could see that through the screen. But I digress. Last question. What's the dopest thing that's come from being Retta, from your fame? Is it your Hamilton experience?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Hamilton. I mean, I love, as I've mentioned, I love a Hollywood party. Nothing makes me happier than watching
You're
famous
a good
people.
schmoozer. Watching
famous people drink and dance is one of my favorite hobbies. But Hamilton definitely, just because I loved it so much and then was allowed to participate in it as much as I did, was like the greatest. Because like going to the Tony party, that was insane. I mean, heavy hitters were at that party.
You want to just give us one?
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Okay.
There was a point where I was standing next to Andrew Lloyd Webber and
Kanye.
Not Kanye. I don't remember seeing Kanye there, but it was pretty amazing. And then just getting to be friends with people in the show, and like, shouts out the Grammy. One of my favorite moments.
Tequila? What was the booze?
Tequila. I was drinking tequila.
Shots out of the Grammy.
Yeah.
The dream.
It's pretty great. So yeah, I would say that was the coolest thing to come from being a quote unquote celeb. Was getting to participate as much as I did. Because the first time I got to go was only because Miguel saw my name in the email and liked me from Parks, and that's how I got my tickets to the last preview before it opened on Broadway. And then the next time I went is because I had met Oak after the show. He liked Parks. I tweeted, I was like, oh, I can't get tickets. He was like, email this girl.
Got you.
I got you tonight. So everything I got was as a result of someone being a fan of Parks, and Don Amigo.
Love it. That's huge.
It's pretty good.
Well, between us girls, Post Malone has written to me. Are you a fan?
Post Malone?
Okay. let me lay down. Post Malone, he's a wild one. Anyway, he's a semi-known rapper singer.
Oh yes.
Post Malone.
Can I tell you? So I just did. I was at Ken Pavis salon. Not a big deal. Don't worry about it, you guys.
Okay, high end.
And they were playing it, and
it's good.
And like press. So that was all we heard. All we heard that I knew it sounded familiar. Yes, that's all we listened to all night for hours.
He recently slipped into my DMs and was like, "I'm performing at the Hollywood Bowl, and I would like to invite you." And I was like,
"What?
Mr. Malone, I'm honored. I will see you there." I love you. Thank you for doing this.
No problem.
This is the best. Buy her book immediately.
Get it.
You know? Bye. That was it. That was Retta again. Buy her book. So close to being the shit. Y'all don't even know. At, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I mean, maybe if there's like a single Borders that's still open, maybe you can go buy it there. Maybe you frequent a local bookstore, like a cute little Nook, a small, convenient sort of 350 square foot shop front that only carries special books. And there's like an older gentleman who owns it, who you have like sort of a shorthand with, and he gives you book suggestions and you buy them or not. Again, guys, hope you had an incredible holiday weekend. Thank you for listening to the Curious Podcast. It means so much to me. Love y'all. Have a good week. Don't sweat it. The week will go fast. It's already Tuesday. You're basically there. It's like basically Thursday night. Okay. Love you. Bye.